Trying to look like you winning. I'm writing rhymes in the kitchen, soaking in moments we live in. Yeah, you got the nerve to be on me, faking your life for the IG. If you got my number, don't add me, cause baby, I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. Baby, don't check for me. Taking time out to be and live my life off screen. Taking time out to be and live my life. Hey. Taking just don't take it personal. We just building. It's my season. Lay foundation. Make a name for generations. Please and make a then take a break or a little vacation and chasing blues away. Hey, hey. You always posting the pictures, trying to look like you winning or look like you always be working. Soaking the moments you live in. Yeah, you got the nerve to be on me, faking your life for the IG. If you got my number, don't add me, cause baby, I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. Baby, don't check for me. Taking time out to be and live my life off screen. Taking time out to be and live my life. I'm in a place serene and pure and free. Hey, I ain't worried about what's the wave, only worry about me. Yeah. Oh, I'm taking time out to be and live my life off screen. Taking time out to.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nate Manahan, and we are here on the High Five, where we're going to be talking about how to get over Hump Day. This is a special Hump Day this week. When you got to get over the hump when it's hard on. You take that Monday off, and now you got to squeeze in a little bit extra in 5 days into 4 days, and get all that work done, and get that hustle done, and get that little juice going. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking, what do we do on our Labor Days? Plus, we're going to make sure that you know how to get things accomplished when you absolutely hear the no and you say, hey, we're going to get this done. All this in the High Five. Let's get going.
The time has come, the questions are set, opinions hide, discussions are led, show about nothing and everything, it's all the same. We've got sports, entertainment, sales, and marketing. It's time for the High Five. We've got it all covered. It's time for the High Five. We've got it all covered. Yeah. The High Five.
All the High Five, everybody. And now I've unmuted and brought up to the screen, in the left-hand side of the screen, the man who is a little bit sadder today because the Rockets couldn't win the third game. They're down 2-1 already. I just want to say whose prediction's going in the right path. We'll just see what LeBron and the boys do against the Rockets. Mr. Danny Shard, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Nate. Happy High Five Wednesday. And yeah, it was a tough game last night, but it's all right. They still got some basketball left.
Hey, at least you're still in it. You can just look at me and say, hey, you and your team, went out 4 and with the tail in your legs and fired your coach. All right, in the middle. If he was coaching the Pacers, maybe we'd win a little bit. The coach, the man who actually gets us motivated, gets us going, and brings us life on a Wednesday morning, Mr. Brian Linke. How are you, sir?
Good, Nate. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me. I will say this: the Pacers don't get swept if I'm coaching the team.
Yeah, they also don't get swept if they have Sabonis on their team as well as Jeremy Lamb. But, moving on. All right. So
you can't win with bad players.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Mr. Linky and Mr. Shard, we're going to talk today about one of the things about in the middle of the sales process, you kind of have that hump. And I thought it was, first of all, talking about hump day. It's the sales process doesn't end with the application. It doesn't end, in these, when you're, especially in our world where you have to fill out an application to get approved and then start getting that process. But that's kind of the mountain. It's the peak. And then you're going into the customer service and hopefully you get them activated and boom, you can just be part of that support. And it's not as active as you were. So, but in our world, things have changed in the last 5 years. And I was talking to Brian Danny just as we were doing a little pre-show. There is some ways that you can accept credit cards. Can you guys hear that? I'm sorry. They're pounding upstairs. Do you guys hear that?
What do you got? You got a Nate? You got a band in the back, Nate?
I've got a plumber taking care of some business, and I can hear. I think the snake is going. But I'm going to lower my mic and talk a little bit louder. So hopefully you guys still hear me. And a little less them. I apologize. But
just when you think you've heard it all.
I know. When I have a plumber doing some work. We're supposed to be here between noon and 4, but they showed up at 10, so I let them in because I needed the plumbing work done. So one of the things I asked, gentlemen, is when you have hump day or a hump in the middle, and you have to get them to fill out the application, there's a lot of ways you can accept payments. Let's say PayPal without filling out a full long application. Stripe starts out that way. I've seen some beginning pieces of Square where you can literally be accepting payments just a few minutes, and literally it's just a few of identifiable information. They're checking your social accounts. So my question is to you guys, and I'm going to mute myself as I ask it, is when you get to the application, I'll start with you, Danny, because I know you have had partners say, man, they don't want to give their social security number. This is their first account. They don't want to give their EINs. They don't want to have, they're saying they don't want to give some of that personal information. How do you coach partners to be able to say, hey, this application, yes, it's a little bit long, but man, it's a lot simpler than it used to be. And let's get it through and get over that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I love this topic too. I think it's really helpful for partners that are approaching new merchants as well as merchants that may have been set up with Stripe and Square. And I'll talk a little bit about that here as well. But for a new business, just starting out, if you happen to get that pushback, I think it's important to simplify it, right? And although it does seem like a lengthy amount of information, granted, the application's only, 2 pages plus an additional owner's addendum or a bank concurrence. So really 3 pages. But as far as merchant information, you got 1 page, and then you've got pricing. So really kind of drilled down application. Whenever I started in the industry, I want to say our application was, I think it was 6 or 7 pages long. So it's definitely gotten a lot better. I know that the Stripes and Squares of the world have really oversimplified it, which has really kind of driven a lot of our businesses to do the same, or as much as we can. Granted, the additional things that we have on the back end, but so to try to simplify it for the merchants, we're looking for verifying their identity and their information. So name, phone number, email address, social security number. And I think, Nate, that's one of the biggest ones. Like, hey, I don't want to provide this information. Well, you have to provide this information in order for us to provide 1099s, verification of identity. Now, our online application only asks for the last 4 digits of your social, at least in the initial, unless the system can't verify it. So that helps as well, kind of simplify it a little bit more, make the merchant feel like they're not giving away all of their information if that seems to be an issue. But I think, as people are fairly new to signing up for services like this, the potential is there to get that type of pushback, right? And it's up to us to kind of simplify it, explain, look, we just have to verify your identity. We do a soft credit pull. This is not going to affect your credit score. And it's really just about making sure you are approving signing up for these financial services. So if you can simplify it, it's really going to help.
Well, let me ask a question. And Brian, I'm going to ask you this first. We have multiple ways kind of that you can apply. You can do a paper application and fill it out in your own back end and send it in through the ELAP process. You can take a paper application, send it to our sales team, and they fill it all out. Or you can do we'll call simplified enrollment, the online application process. Brian, how do you, in your sales flow, I know there are some people that have real strong opinions, and I actually haven't asked you this question before. How do you do the application process, and how do you find is the simplest way in your sales system when you're getting someone to sign up?
So again, I'm the old school guy, right? So I'm the paper app guy. Although the online stuff is so much easier and it's just more seamless, I think. But here's the thing. I think by the time you get the merchant to fill out the application, that's kind of almost like just the tail end of the sales process, right? So like you've already gotten the sale. You've already sold yourself. You've sold, you're selling paper tech. You put the pricing together. You put the equipment together. You've done all of that. To me, the application is secondary. And, so I think if you've done the things that you're supposed to do, again, in the relationship building process, because if you don't build a relationship, then I think the pushback, then you're getting all kinds of questions that are uncomfortable to answer. I think if you do the selling up front and you sell yourself, you build a relationship. Again, the application is secondary. The other thing is then you're keeping the merchants for years and years and years, and it's the thing that I think I do best. I mean, if you look at my personal portfolio, I've got knock on wood, I've got merchants that have been with me since day one, and the reason is because I basically have sold myself, and they know that they can call me on my cell, they can text me, they can email me. So as far as the application process, I just think that it's a great topic, and Danny hit on a lot of really, really good things. But to me, it's almost secondary.
Brian brings a really good point there too. I love that approach because, again, trying to simplify it, like he's saying, if you're selling and adding enough value and you've got the relationship, which you should as you're signing up this merchant, getting that application is going to be a walk in the park, right? You're adding enough value to justify the information you're asking for. And with the information being asked for on that first page of the application, although it's drilling down into the merchant's information, it's pretty straightforward. And it's pretty rare that we hear of partners getting that much pushback. Most of the time it's from merchants that were with Square, Stripe of the world, or they're fairly new to this and just have not signed up for a financial services account and just kind of got to coach them through it. But I couldn't agree with Brian more. This is why he is who he is, right? And simplifying the conversation, winning the merchants over, adding a lot of value to their business and what you're offering, the application's gonna take care of itself.
I think that the thing that may be a little bit trickier is to talk a merchant who's processing already into processing and doing cash discounting. I think that takes that's selling.
That's some salesmanship. Absolutely.
That's selling. Because again, and everybody wins. Obviously the agent wins because the residual is 3 to 4 times higher. The merchant wins because he doesn't have to pay the fees. And the customer just has to understand. And again, and I know we're not talking about this right now, but for our agents that are listening, hey, we're going to raise our prices anyway, right? I mean, so instead of doing that, we decided to do this. So I don't mean to get off topic, but I just think that the application to me is just a secondary thing.
I'm going to bring you back on topic because I would say I'm going to push back a little, Brian, because I hear from our partners that they get into places where they can't close the deal because they don't get the application. And if you don't get the application, you can't. It's not a deal for us. Any underwritten banking relationship, it's just not. And one of the reasons is that I think, so I just looked up the number. I have it over here on my other side screen. So there's 750,000 merchants processing with Shopify payments using their payments. No underwriting, simple application, no, and they, and I think at some point it tips over into a 1099K situation where they have to grab an EIN and a social, but you can get up and running on Shopify and start processing. And I know friends of mine who process $30,000 a month. Now they would save so much if they'd come work with us, but then they'd have to switch their payments. We can even save them. And when you have to pay the extra money to Shopify to use our payments, but it's too much work to say, I got to incorporate, or I got to feel like I separate, even though it's better for them, because you've got to convince them that this is better for you, it's better for your business. And that really isn't a sale on the front end. Making sure that you set expectations. Because I think what I hear a lot of times is, Danny, you're talking all the things that are asked in those first pages, is thinking how I can simplify the process as part of my sales process to actually work through as part of the application process. So I'm already hinting that they're going to have their social security number ready, or have their EIN number ready, and have all their paperwork put together. And if I know that they're going to fall into that mid and high risk, and maybe there's going to be some bank statements, I'm setting that application up before we're even there, so we can set the expectations. So when we hit that and we're going up up on the top. We're at the peak and we're going to start going down because we're going to get them in the application and approved. We're going to make that work. Danny, do you see some of our partners? How do you see them helping our merchants understand what information they're going to have? So that's just a seamless process. And then I would love to hear from you, because I know I'm always shocked that we still have so many people using paper applications. What do you see the pros and cons of paper versus online?
Yeah, I mean, with on that really quick, the paper versus online, we're actually doing a lot of proactive communications to offices and trying to encourage the use of our online applications because it really streamlines our underwriting process as well. We've got several verification checkpoints that can really speed up this process and just make it extremely clean for the merchant to sign up, for the partner to go paperless, and for underwriting to really provide a speedy underwriting process. But like Brian and even like myself, right? I mean, I think it's important for partners to know both processes that are available, both paper and online, because it's really up to the merchant, right? And what they're comfortable with. There's a lot of merchants, Nate, and they're not a part of that 750,000 that are on Shopify that are just not comfortable signing an online application, right? They don't want to put their information out there, and they want to work with somebody that they're comfortable with. And if they are, then we've got to have paper applications ready to help them do that. So the merchant's going to determine the route of the application and how it's going to be processed. And we can kind of encourage and guide them to take one over the other and keep it clean. I think, COVID is going to help drive the use of this type of process even more so than it was already. But there's still just a lot of old school merchants and old school partners that are just sticking with those old processes. Also, partners are sticking to using like DocuSign agreements, which in our site, even though it's electronic, it's still considered a paper application because it's not through our online application process. They might use this because it perhaps is built into their CRM systems, and maybe they've got several reps and they just want to keep it clean and have all their applications, in one lock and loaded area kind of thing. So they'll do that. There's a few different reasons why they might use paper, but I think again, it's going to be up to the merchant to do that. In regards
I love
to
DocuSign.
right.
When you do DocuSign, I mean, the thing about it is it's you can't forget anything, right? I mean, it's hard to so when the application gets submitted, you can't leave anything out. However, and again, this is something, about the old school thing. I think, again, it goes back to the old adage of, know the room, right? Know the room, meaning know who your merchant is, know where you're selling. I mean, there's certain parts of the country, this being one of them, in Warsaw, Indiana, there's a lot of old school people here. And they're just not comfortable with online applications. So instead of trying to push it down their throat, bring them the paper application, sit down with them, get 3/4 of it filled out for them, while they're doing what they do. And then when they sit down, all they need to do is sign here, initial here, initial here. Yeah, sure, they've got to put in some of their personal information, but again, I just think it's knowing the room. I would think in bigger cities, people are a little bit more, in with the technology, and maybe paper applications aren't nearly as relevant there. But again, I just think it just depends on where you're at and who you're talking to.
Yeah, I agree. And on the topic of like the squares and the stripes, Nate, to discuss that a little bit, I think it's important that we as partners and talking to merchants understand and are prepared to have those conversations should they come up, right? Now, a lot of the types of merchants that we're catering to, your small to medium businesses, that's what our core offerings really focus on, right? So, maybe the bigger point of sale systems. I think, let's be honest, Square has a great product, but merchants can outgrow those products, right? Now, so if they're currently with Square, but they just need something a little more robust, a little bit, better fit for their business as their business has grown, they're going to have to partner with a company like ours to get the right system and actually have the right parameters set in place for them. With Square and Stripe, super easy to sign up, right? But what you're also understanding, or have to help the merchant understand, if they ask that question, well, I was with Square and I didn't have to provide any of this information, and now I've got to do all this with you guys. There's a different type of processing account. So with Square, yes, it can be very easy to sign up, but yeah, you're going to have to provide that information down the road. You're going to also run the risk of them holding their money or your money without really any any pushback or anything for you to combat that unless you get back to them in a reasonable time. There's some things that you're going to have to do on the back end that they might not capture up front. So they make that onboarding extremely easy, but then you're going to have to do some extra work following up to make sure you don't go into that holds with them. And also, there's a point that a lot of merchants want these types of relationships. So I think Square and Stripe are really helping companies like us work smarter and see how we can really make the onboarding and getting up and processing seamless. And we've done some of that on our side with things like graduated underwriting and our auto approvals. So we're really trying to streamline the underwriting process. However, capturing the information is still a requirement, and that's where they're not having to do that up front with those types of models, but they are getting it on the back end. They're getting them somewhere, right? Otherwise, they can't, they can't pay, they can't do taxes. So there's some extra steps that they'll have to do following up and just helping merchants understand the different types of processing accounts, right? So with our company, you're going to have a variety of different options. You're going to have myself to call and rely on. You're going to have our risk department to work with should you have any issues that come up. With Square, with Stripe, you're at their mercy completely, right? You don't have any of that. So there's a little bit of a different underwriting process. To get all of this, you're going to have to give a little more information, but it's going to save you a lot of headaches on the back end.
Square and Stripe don't deliver paper on a Saturday afternoon in their bathing suit.
That's a great one.
Okay, and then they also don't deliver printer ribbons that they had to go buy at Staples because the kitchen printers on the hot sauce POS ran out of ink. So they went over to Staples in their bathing suit and delivered ribbons to the restaurant so they could print receipts. So I know Square and Stripe don't do that.
That's what we're talking about with the relationships, right? I mean, that's the huge part of it, and where we can differentiate as partners, talking and helping our merchants is doing things just like Brian said, right? And they're just not going to get that from them.
Well, and I think one of the things that is very true is that we have nearly everything Square and Stripe have and a little bit more. And so I think you can add that storyline when you're talking about, hey, just however the merchant wants to do it, you present, hey, you can do paper applications. You can't do paper applications with PayPal, Stripe, or Square. You can't do them with Toast. You can't do them with multiple companies in the fintech anymore. So you can do that. Plus, we also have a very streamlined online application that is fast and quick and has a lot of instant approvals built into it. I forget our number, Danny, but it's a really high percentage that people are approved in just a few minutes. And this was not the world that we lived in just a couple of years ago.
No, our auto approval process has been really cool as our underwriting teams have developed it. Again, several checkpoints. It really helps with the online applications because you can hit those checkpoints quickly. And it's pretty straightforward, right? If you got a soft credit pull that they'll do, and if your credit's above a 550, you fall into the majority of low risk business merchant category codes, and you've been in business for at least 6 months, you're going to hit an auto approval and be approved within about 30 seconds. We're seeing over 65% of applications submitted are hitting that auto approval engine. So it's really cool to see. And, then we've got this graduated underwriting process as well. So for example, a furniture store that's historically been considered somewhat higher risk, right? Because you've got future delivery exposure and some things like that. Usually you'd have to get bank processing statements, things like that. What we're seeing is if it's an established business, they'll get approved, but they may be approved with some lower parameters than what was requested until they provide that information. But what that allows them to do is get the application submitted, allows us to approve the account that some parameters we're comfortable with, get the equipment shipped out, get the merchant up and running, and have that information provided on the back end so we can set the parameters properly. But we can do this quickly and help merchants get up and running fast. And I think that's the whole point. That's what we're really trying to accomplish, is a seamless underwriting process for the majority, and get merchants up and running quickly with as little information as possible.
So, gentlemen, last question on this topic today is, when you're getting an application filled out, what do you do because it may be an instant approval you're doing online, but you're doing a paper. What's your next step after you get it all filled out, it's submitted, and you're in that wait phase? How do you help set expectations and help things go smoothly in that immediate future right after the application? Because sometimes it can be 5 minutes and sometimes it may take 2 days if you did a paper application and you got on a busy day. How do you help with that?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that we haven't talked about is merchants, and this happens a lot. Merchants who have put a lock on their credit, and being able to again with Square and Stripe, you're not you're not getting that personal. And again, I've dealt with merchants here just as of late that. Where we have to unlock their credit for a certain amount of time in order to run the soft credit pull, and again, that's just something that we provide here, that the merchant just doesn't have to worry about.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is probably one of the most important parts of the sales cycle is setting that expectation. You've sold the merchant, they're excited to get started, right? You've completed the application. What's next, right? So as a seasoned sales professional, you're going to pretty much identify based on type of business and maybe the transaction sizes that they need if you're going to need supporting documents. So getting that up front, or at least advising the merchant, hey, most likely we're going to need this. Can you start compiling it for me just in case? Or if you've got it right now, let me go ahead and get some scans so I can get it to our underwriting team. Setting those expectations is really important. Of course, what you want to avoid is that feeling whenever you've submitted the application and you've got to go back from underwriting and ask for a list of different things. More than just, hey, we need to verify your phone number or verify your email address, or we need to get a copy of a processing statement due to your type of business or something like that. These are all things that, for the most part anyway, can be avoided if you can understand a little bit more of what underwriters might look for. And that's something that we can help with, right? So leaning on your team, letting us help you set those expectations properly for each merchant, I think is key. But more importantly, also letting the merchant know, I'll be in touch within the next 24 hours to let you know if we're going to need anything else. Otherwise, once your account's approved, I'll let you know, and we'll coordinate getting your equipment here and setting up time to get you installed and start processing. But the merchant's excited, right? You've sold them, right? They want to play with their new toy. They want to start saving money. They want to get their new equipment. They want to take advantage of what you sold them on quickly. That's why, here on our partner relations side, there's so much urgency on every account, and I understand why. And the reason is that as partners, you're out there and selling a merchant, you've closed them, you've gotten the application in, but your job's not done yet, right? Of course, they're not saving, we're not making money until they're processing. So if we can get that done quickly and really in an urgent way, it's just going to help everybody with that feel good once they're up and running. So,
well, I think too, just about everything that we do is to protect the merchant. Right. I mean, with the fraud today and things that are happening, all these horror stories that you hear about. I mean, everything is to protect the merchant. And I'll give you another example. Just as of late, I've talked to a couple of merchants where their high tickets $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, whatever. And I've got a place down in Jacksonville, Florida. It's a golf academy, and he told me, he goes, I do probably half a dozen transactions that are over $20,000 overseas. Is that going to be a problem? Well, again, we're not going to raise the high ticket to $20,000 because that would hurt the merchant. That would hurt him to do that, right? I mean, the risk then would be far greater. So, what I told him was, give me a copy of the receipt. And I will walk it through. And again, this is what Danny and I are here for, through our underwriters. And we will see if we can get it pushed through with just the receipt. If not, and we have to go back and get more information, then we'll do that. But, to protect you, and they already know this too. That's the other thing. Merchants already know, my golf guy knows that, that he doesn't do a $20,000 transaction on a daily basis. That he's going to have to come through. So again, these are the kinds of things that you can do for your merchant to nip that in the bud, and something that, again, Square and Stripe, they don't do.
There we go. Gentlemen, what would be, as we close out today, what would be your biggest encouragement to get through Hump Day and get more applications and actually And then next, we're going to talk about tactics to get merchants activated. That's going to be Friday. What are some tips that we can do and tricks that we can do to get them activated? But how do we get over that hump and get that application? Because we want to get them processing, because that's how we all win, because the business is making money and we're making some money. So what are our last encouragements as we close out?
Again, I just think it's, it's the relationship, and we go back to the same exact thing. Eating at the restaurant where the merchant is. Going and buying things at your I just think it's just the same thing. It's just building the relationship and having that relationship with your merchant, and knowing that they can call you on a Saturday to bring you. I hope it doesn't happen all the time to me, but finding myself in the middle of Staples, delivering printer ribbons for their kitchen printers. Those are the kinds of things that just set us apart.
What say you, Danny Shard?
Yeah, I think, sell value, eliminate those processing fees, right? Get them into a nice, shiny point of sale system. You're going to get those applications closed. You're going to close a lot more business. And I can't tell you enough, as many partners that we're talking to, Brian and I and our team on a regular basis, is cash discount and POS systems are king, right? Eliminate those processing fees, talk to them about it. Stress the urgency to get started, get them with a nice big POS system to help them manage their business. You're going to close a lot more business here, and you're going to get over that midweek hump and close more deals.
Stickier. The accounts are stickier.
Stickier.
Absolutely. Well, we're here every Wednesday and Friday around 10 in the morning usually. It's always available on demand at YouTube, at Facebook, and we're going to be working on trying to email all these out to you where you can get to see them anytime, because we're bringing great content to help you as partners continue to succeed and grow your businesses and live out all your dreams. That's what we're doing. We're just trying to figure it out. We're trying to help. We're trying to have a little fun. Brian, Danny, thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for being on the High Five. We say High Five. We call it the High Five because we can't be next to you, but we're giving you the virtual high five because we are so thankful that you have joined us. Have a great rest this week. It's a short week. Let's get a lot of work done. Let's make September incredibly, incredibly prosperous for everyone. It's great to be a part, and things are opening up. Gentlemen, have a great one. We will see you soon on Friday, because this is the High Five. That's right, the High Five.